Welcome back to Teacher Talk. This is episode 6, and today I'm with Miss Murphy. Now, I haven't had you as a teacher yet. I know you teach math, right?
Yes, I teach math, mostly trigonometry. I am a math lab teacher, and then I also teach real life math.
Nice. So tell me about your time here at Cromwell Public Schools, how long you've been here, what got you into teaching, school, college, everything.
Awesome. Yeah. So I've been here 6 years now. So I graduated college in 2019, and Cromwell was my first job. So I started in 2019. I was really young. I was 21. Sherry Petrowski at the time was the head of the math department, and she was amazing. She was a mentor of mine. We started out the year as normal in 2019, so everything was awesome my first year. There were hiccups here and there, and I was learning. And then COVID happened. So that was very, very interesting, definitely being in my first year teaching. It was a new experience for everybody. We didn't know what was happening at the time, so we adjusted every day. Every day was something different. So that was the start of my career, was COVID. So very interesting, and I've seen us grow from COVID. Now we're back to normal, or it feels back to normal. So in the math department, definitely seeing just some skill gaps of students through COVID. So we're trying to fill in those gaps every year because I think all these high schoolers, you guys would have been in COVID, in middle school?
Yeah, it started in 7th grade and then 8th grade.
Yeah, so we're trying to fill in those gaps that maybe some kids might have missed. So that's our biggest goal right now as a school.
How do you think that impacted you to today? Do you think that made you a better teacher as it was a huge challenge?
It gave me new skills,
yeah,
for sure. I had to learn how to teach on the web, which wasn't taught in college. I also did my master's through COVID. So I used that time being home to get through my master's. So I did my undergrad at CCSU, and I was in person. So I lived there my freshman, sophomore, and junior year. And then I did my student teaching at Haddam-Killingworth High School. And I lived at home for my last year of college because it just made more sense to live at home. I'm from Westbrook, Connecticut, on the shoreline. And then I did my master's, throughout college, and that was at the University of Hartford. And that was all online, so it was nice and easy to do at home. And, in that sense, COVID was kind of nice because I was able to do all those classes, and I was able to learn new skills about teaching online.
What brought you to want to become a teacher, and why did you choose math specifically?
That's a great question. In high school, I had a lot of influential teachers. I had a lot going on in my life in high school, family things. And I really, school is an outlet for me to be in a different place, right? A different setting. You see your friends, your teachers, different supports. And so school is kind of, I don't want to say an escape. It wasn't an escape for me, but it gave me confidence. I was very involved in student council. It was a very small school. Westbrook is very small. It was 300 kids. So a little bit different than Cromwell. I had 70 kids in my grade, and we were all very close to each other. And so, again, I had very influential teachers, and it kind of came down to, do I want to teach math or physics? Because I had an awesome physics teacher. And I chose math, and I love the path that I've been down. Especially CCSU gave me so many different opportunities. So if you are on the college path, definitely join any clubs. I did a lot of sports. I met so many new people. I really enjoyed living on campus.
What's it like to be in the learning environment for basically your whole life? I mean, most teachers, including yourself, depending on what you said, you go through high school, right beginning from kindergarten, you're in school that whole time, then you go to college to be a teacher, and now you're in high school again teaching. What's it like to have that your whole life in that learning environment?
That's a great question. It's very different as a teacher, seeing the public education system. So, you go through it from kindergarten to 12th grade, and you don't value it as much as you should. Definitely as a teacher in public education, I see it in a different light. So I see things that maybe I didn't see when I was a kid. Students who learn differently, students at different levels, students with different interests. I feel like when I was growing up, I was always with, the same types of students. But now as a teacher, I see so many varying abilities. And it's so interesting to see different types of learners, different types of students. And my friends who are not in public education, make fun of me from time to time. They ask me about the high school drama and, they say, oh, you're going to be in high school the rest of your life. So it is definitely interesting that it will be the rest of my life until I retire. But it is a true passion of mine and why I've been placed on this earth. I love working with students with disabilities, different abilities. That is my passion. I coach unified sports. And my dream one day after retirement would be to work for Special Olympics.
Nice. Why is it important to learn math at a higher level? Like, why would it be important for me to learn trigonometry if I'm not going in a field that requires that?
I think it's just having the ability to think outside the box. I get that question asked all the time. When am I ever going to use this, Miss Murphy? And I get the complaints. And quite honestly, sometimes you're not going to use it. You're not going to be going out calculating the cosecant of this angle in your real life. But being able to work with different people, especially now, collaboration is really important in the classroom. So we're trying to push group work. So working with people that you might not work with usually on a difficult problem, something even that you're not going to do, gives you those skills. Because in the future, you're going to be meeting people that you might not like. You're going to meet people that you might not get along with. But you need to figure out problems and find solutions and having that ability. So I think, that's a great question. When am I ever going to use this? You might not, but you need to have those skills to work with people. So
kind of stemming off of what you just said, how does math and being able to calculate variables, how does that contribute to critical thinking?
Oh, I mean, it definitely contributes to critical thinking. There's not one way to solve a problem. And so I feel like when I was younger in school, it was a lot of, plug and chug. You get an equation, you plug in numbers. This is the only way that you do it. So now as a department, we're trying to come up with performance tasks, outside of the box thinking questions where it's not a straightforward answer. There was a math conference that I went to, and one of the speakers said that in the beginning of the year, he asked his students in a single, 10-minute span, and it was a silly question. It was for middle schoolers. How many toilets in the United States are being flushed in 10 minutes? And so you think about it, and you have to think outside the box on that question. And so all of these students, right, they were silly, they were laughing, but it got them thinking, on average, how many bathrooms are in a school, how many bathrooms are in a certain building, how many houses have 2 bathrooms. And so you're thinking, right, we're talking, we're trying to get students to talk. So even though, again, that's like a silly example, having those performance tasks out of the box thinking really, really helps students with their collaboration skills. Because in this growing age, right, I see students, I give them 5 minutes at the end of class, and I say, hey, you have 5 minutes. Why don't you work on an assignment? They all take out their phones, and they don't talk to each other.
Yep.
They just look at their phones, and they don't talk to each other. And I'm like, get off your phones, play Uno, come up with a game or something. So cell phones are definitely very sad to see. It's one of my biggest problems, I think, in the classroom. But I also think it's just sad.
Yeah, where do you see math in your classes and teaching going in the future with that and technology? I know I did this a few times when I was learning calculus. I literally had an app on my phone where I could take a picture of this super complex calculus equation and it would solve it within seconds. So how does that, where do you see it going with the power of technology in that way?
Yeah. AI, I think, is very important. I've used Chat GPT before. It comes up with great math problems. If I am on a time crunch, it's great. It really is. However, we need students to understand where certain things are coming from. So yes, right. There's photo math. It's going to tell you the answer right away. But what does that answer mean to you? So you can solve that equation super quickly with a picture, but what does it mean? So I think in the future, technology, AI is going to be very important in the math classroom, but really understanding what it's doing for you. It's a powerful tool. I definitely think some of the things that we do and what public education in the whole United States is very old school. So I think in general, education has to kind of radicalize a little bit so that it can bring in the AI, the technology. Maybe we have to start giving more performance tasks, out of the box thinking questions, so that students can use the AI and the technology. So in my trigonometry class, I let them use Desmos a lot, graphing, but I also ask them, what are you actually doing?
Yeah.
So they might be able to get that answer, but can they understand what it means?
Well, it's kind of like the program is doing all the work for you, when if you do that work constantly, you're going to get that critical thinking. So
Exactly.
you're losing that. But as a teacher, do you see AI and that technology as more of a tool where it's helpful, or kind of something that would hurt you?
I think it can be both. I think it can definitely be both. I think you can use it to cheat. I've seen students do it. I think it's probably easier in like the English and the history classes, right? Because it can write a whole essay for you. AI is absolutely incredible what it can do, but I think it also hurts us because it takes away that thinking. It takes away our thinking for us. So we have to use AI in certain aspects of our life, because I think it takes away, personality. It takes away creativity. So really using it to help you be creative, using it to help you in certain questions, in life. I used Chat GPT. I had to make a wedding speech at a wedding, and I was just kind of completely at a loss. And I just typed in, "Hey, I'm saying a speech in a wedding for so and so. Can you help me just get started?" And so it gave me a few ideas, and then I added in my personal touch. So I did actually use it for a very important event in my life, but I also made sure that I added in my own personality and my own creativity, because I didn't want it just to be a cookie cutter speech.
So I remember in my class last year, calculus with Miss Randazzo, there was this poster that I always looked at because I sat in the front of the class. I said, math and nature. And I never really understood what that meant. How does math contribute to our life and other forms of life, whether it be like a plant or other people? How does it contribute to that?
I mean, it's absolutely incredible. If you look at Fibonacci's sequence, it's wild, the ratios that you see in nature that just keep repeating themselves. So, some great examples are like fractals of a flower, or fractals in, a certain plant. Those same ratios of, let's say, the length of the petals to, I'm not entirely sure, but like the diameter of the middle of the flower. That same ratio is also in our human body. So you can see that with the distance between our eyes, or the distance between your nose and your top lip is the same ratio as your nose to your ear, which is the same ratio as your finger to your arm. It somewhere, somehow, whatever you believe in, this ratio keeps popping up. And it can't be a coincidence. People bring in religion to it. People say it's God's number. But again, whatever you believe in or whatever you don't believe in, it is absolutely crazy how much math pops up in our life. So a couple of the students, we were doing a problem, and I think we were talking about speed. And again, they asked, when am I going to ever use this? And I said, well, listen, again, you might not be using this, but when you cross the road, you're actually doing math. And they were like, what are you talking about? When I cross the road, I'm doing math. And I said, well, yeah, you are. You're calculating the distance of that car, how far away it is, how fast it's moving. You're doing that instantly in your head. You might not be crunching numbers, but you're seeing, can I cross this road safely? So that is math. That's reasoning. That's a great example. Officer, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his last name. I will try to get that name to you later. But he will come into our classroom, and he is an accident reconstructivist. And he actually uses trigonometry in his job. He has to calculate, let's say two people crash their car and they both say they're innocent. He can actually figure out through math who caused the accident.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. So he will come in at the end of the year to my trig classes. And, my students will always ask silly questions and things like that. But, I when he came in last year, I was like, I want to be an accident reconstructivist.
Yeah.
It's very cool. And he can look at, tread marks on the ground, drag sleds. He uses those, calculating angles. It's quite interesting. So math is very important in our life. It can prove someone innocent or guilty. It's pretty crazy.
I have one last question. Yeah. So as a math teacher, you're part of a core class and that core class curriculum. Why are core classes still important? Let's say if somebody knows exactly what they want to do as a freshman. So they know what they want to do, and they're seeing these core classes as kind of trivial to what they're doing. Why are they still important in high school?
I think life can take you in many places. And you might think that you're on the path that you're going to be your whole life, but who knows? Things can change. So again, I think going back to those critical thinking skills, being able to have, basic math skills, being able to understand a more difficult question is going to be important in your future. I'm currently fixing up a condo right now. I just moved to a new condo, and I've had to do a lot of math, a lot of measuring and calculating. And quite honestly, I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have those prerequisite skills, if I didn't have those core classes. I wish as a kid, now with everything going on in our world, that I did take history more seriously in high school, because there's so much happening in our world right now, and having the information from those history classes in high school, I wish at the time that I took it more seriously. And so, someone down the road might be saying the same thing about math. I wish I took math more seriously, because my friends, they'll have political talks, and they'll talk about wars and different countries. And it's almost like I have to do my own research, which I think is also very important, especially in this day and age, right? Researching everything. But again, I wish I just paid more attention in high school.
So kind of taking advantage of what you have here.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly.
Thank you, Miss Murphy. That was episode 6. I'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Students looking for a fun activity after school, look no further than Robotics Club. Test your engineering skills and participate in fun teamwork challenges. Plus, the team you'll become a part of travels around the state for competitions. That's right, Robotics Club is just like a sport with local and state championships. Whether you're looking for an exciting way to spend your Tuesday afternoons or want to become an engineer in the future, Robotics Club is for you. See Mr. Borgia in room 207 for more details.